All right, so what we've got here is, like I said, an environmentally themed mural. I've already gone ahead and designed it along with some other students. We've already got it designed and ready to go. I've already gone ahead and I projected it onto a piece of masonite board. That's what this stuff is. Same stuff that you make like clipboards out of. That's all, just kind of a thin piece of wood. I projected all the pieces that we'll need and have it traced on. So like I said, really at the end of the day, it is ready to be painted like paint by numbers, okay? Just like we did for the landscape, right? You started in the background and you work toward your foreground. So what I highly suggest is, take for example, like this is the woman's arm, right? Notice that there are these little shapes right here, right? What I highly suggest, and it sounds kind of backwards, right? I would suggest you paint those first, or whatever the lightest color is. A lot of these tend to be like the highlights on like her arm, right? Her bicep there. So I suggest that you paint the lighter color first. That way if you kind of split outside the lines, who cares? When it dries, you take the darker color and you clean that line, right? When you go to paint, there are two different schools of thought. My personal suggestion is this: edge first. Get the cleanest, nicest edge possible. Then go to town, right? Just fill in the circle, right? Rather than filling it in and then trying to hope that you didn't go over the line, right? Edge it first, then worry about the rest later. Cool? Lighter color underneath, darker color on top. Okay? So this is the woman's arm. She is kind of reaching out. You can kind of see there. I've already posted the full design on our Blackboard page, so you can see that as well. What's going to end up happening is basically this. So we have a woman who's kind of stand-in for like Mother Earth. She is surrounded. I'll try to move all these pieces here. So this is her. I'll stand her up real quick. She's about 8 foot tall. So this is going to be Mother Earth there. Notice that currently she is nude. She won't be. But what's going to happen is she's going to have some fabric wrapping around her. Her arm will be on top of that fabric to give kind of a three-dimensional effect, right? Almost like she's wearing like a toga kind of thing, right? Her arm goes on top of that, so... I'm going to go and place something kind of like that. Right, so she's reaching out and she's looking down. I don't know if you guys can see. There you go. Kind of reaching out and looking down at her hand. Okay? So, as she is being wrapped up in this toga, this here is her toga. I had done a demonstration with a theater class talking about how to dye fabric. So all of this right here is burlap. This is very cheap, very kind of like crusty looking fabric. It originally comes in kind of like a beige color. We've gone ahead and dyed it. This is 14 feet of fabric, or 14 yards of fabric. It's about 30 feet of fabric. 14 yards, and it is one giant ombre, going from this kind of deep, kind of cerulean kind of blue, all the way down to kind of a clear white color. Okay? But you'll notice that on the inside here, it also gets kind of gross and gnarly looking. At the very beginning of the fabric, as well as an ombre, I also kind of went through, myself and two students painted and kind of just flung paint all over the place to give it kind of like a polluted effect. This is in essence kind of a stand-in for like water or the environment, right? So at the beginning it's polluted. She, her toga, will wrap around her and it's this polluted mess kind of swirling around Mother Earth, right? She's kind of like caught inside of it, right? As she reaches out, this fabric is going to kind of billow from around her up to her hands and fall straight down, like she's kind of scooping water up with her hands, right? Inside of this fabric, I'm going to go ahead, I've already started collecting a whole bunch of old plastic water bottles, right? We're going to physically sew different water bottles and pieces of like pollution into this fabric, right? So she is scooping it out of the ocean and kind of holding it upright, looking at these bottles. As the fabric or the water falls down from her hands, it will start to billow and flow along the wall. It's going to stretch along this entire wall outside here, right? The entire wall is going to stretch with this fabric kind of billowing and flowing. Behind this fabric, painted on the wall, are going to be kind of a flow of leaves, just a small little pattern of leaves kind of flowing along, again, symbolizing the environment. And then jumping through the fabric and around the leaves are going to be a series of different silhouettes. I've got a whole bunch of fish. I've got 3 different types of fish here. And I have 2 different silhouettes of birds as well. Okay? So kind of flowing forth from this cleaner water is going to be these fish and leaves, bless you, and birds and stuff. So, to add a little bit of majesty, even though I won't lie to you personally, I'm not a big fan of this, to add a little majesty to these kind of bird silhouettes and stuff, they're going to be painted jet black, but as the paint is drying, we're going to use glitter and sprinkle some glitter over top so they have a little bit of shine, because the sunlight coming through these windows will be shining on them directly, and they'll have a little bit of sparkle to them, especially like right as the sun's setting. It's going to give a little twinkle that these animals are jumping forth from all this fabric. Cool? I'm not a fan of glitter, but it's going to look pretty. So, as this black paint, it's going to be jet black to really kind of emphasize, like whenever you're in a movie theater, right? Pitch black lights, boom with the light, right? Same idea, jet black paint, sprinkle, sprinkle town, and then you're good to go. Cool? I don't like glitter. It gets everywhere. You'll never get rid of it. I have glitter on me from like 8th grade. It will never go away. So, theme number 1. Cool? Good? Obviously, lots and lots of work going into theme number 1, but a lot of stuff's already been done for you. The fabric is done and ready. I will assemble it. I will bolt it into the wall. You don't need to worry about that. I will totally accept help, but it's not a part of the project, right? The actual painting needs to be done, so you'll have maybe 1 or 2 people can tackle all of the fish and animals in Sprinkle Town, and maybe 2 or 3 people can tackle her, right? You'll notice also that I've got some extra pieces of scrap wood here. These do not need to be painted. These are spacers, so that I can go back and lift her arm a little bit to give some space for the fabric to kind of flow. That's all that is. So these won't need to be painted. We're in the wellness department. We're going to be doing a mural along this entire wall. Again, the design is already on Blackboard, so you can check it out there. But the main components I've already drawn on the wall. You'll notice that there are 2 silhouettes of human heads right along here, really large and in charge, a female and a male. All of this wall right here is going to be like a stark jet blue, then white, then blue, for school colors obviously. Then we've got a huge gap, and we're going to have a green ribbon wrapping around the blue and white clock tower on campus here, okay? So the green ribbon's wrapping around kind of a symbol of campus, a symbol of school. The green ribbon kind of symbolizes mental wellness, mental health, because that's the department that we're in. So, how do we get from solid blue over to that green ribbon? Well, what's going to happen is I've got a whole bunch of sponge brushes that are a pure circle, different sizes. We're going to lay out a menagerie of 5 or 6 different values of light blue, dark blue, deep blue, purpley blue, a whole range, right? You and your team are going to come along, kind of take the sponge brush and this paint, and start to kind of dab, 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 and you'll make these dots, this kind of pixelated mess, going really, really thick and goopy over here, thinner, kind of sparse, kind of spreading out and out, right? So we're going to go for almost like it's kind of, you're going inside this guy's head, right? You're kind of like pixelating, kind of zooming in slow but sure, these little dots all over the place. Kind of zooming inside. Sound effects really help. As we come along here, we're going to have a solid green coming out. So like the dots will kind of surround, almost like, again, it's pixelated kind of coming out of his brain. Solid green, darker green in the background to give a sense of 3D. Solid green, and then blue and white for the clock tower. Again, kind of showing the idea of getting inside of these people's heads and helping them out. We want the mural to be bright and colorful, but at the same time it needs to be subdued enough because they do meetings in here, right? You wouldn't want something that's conflicting, so as you're having a meeting and someone's helping you out with your mental wellness, and then all of a sudden you see like bright neon colors jumping out at you, it doesn't really give an air of mellowness and calmness, right? So we want something that is symbolic, we want something that is prideful, but at the same time, mellow, right? So that's where we're sticking with kind of the blue theme, right? Also notice how the mural is aligned on the wall. If you come down this hallway, you will face the 2 heads first. From down the hallway, you'll see them clear as day, right? As you walk down the hallway, you see the faces, and then the dots kind of flow you around into this symbol of mental wellness on campus, right? That's why we're using the clock tower to symbolize not just Hampton U, but the campus of Hampton U, the brick and mortar, right? That's the theme, that's the idea. This one's a little bit simpler, but again, much, much larger, right? When you're painting this one, edging is king, right? So when you're painting, if you're gonna take some blue paint right to that edge, paint that edge first. Don't glob on the ceiling, that's not a good look, right? You go up with your paintbrush, get that clean edge first, let it dry, and then you can color it in for the rest of the way. Cool?